Ding. Who's the smartest host of Half a Clue podcast?
I think that's me, to be honest.
You guys aren't getting...
No.
We just watched this movie, some of us, today. That's like their thing
What
in the
movie is it?
friend
What?
group.
What do you do? What?
Which monkey could host this podcast better than us?
Yeah.
Actually, that's probably more like what they would ask. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, we're getting off to a great start, but that was a reference to our movie. Since I'm the host, you have to ask me what my pick is of the week.
Oh, hey, Blake. So what is your
Oh, hey,
pick
Ron.
of the week this week?
Oh, hey, Ron. My pick of the week is 1995's Kicking and Screaming, directed by Noah Baumbach. I've never known how to say his last
I
name.
think Baumbach sounds right.
Baumbach. Jason, you said it differently once, I think.
I think I've always said Baumbach. I don't know. Maybe I made a joke.
Oh.
I don't know.
Well, that's something that the characters do. They have their little trivia game where they argue insufferably with each other. But yeah, that's my pick of the week. I think I'm the only person who's seen it. This is my... I can't decide if this is my second or third viewing. But I did watch it in January of 2023. I think it was January 10th. So it's been about 2 years since
Wow.
I've watched this movie for the first time. And I don't remember if I watched it a second time or not. But point being, I've seen it. You guys have not, right?
No.
Well, what did you guys all think of it just generally really quick?
I liked it. It feels like a good I think it's a pretty strong like debut for somebody, especially, Noah, he did this when he's 26. Like, it's impressive, but there's a lot of rough edges to it that you can tell that, he could have worked out later. Like, but there's a lot of like little, I don't know. It's a rough start, but I think it's pretty good. I mean, it's pretty damn good. It's better than anybody I knew that, like, in film school that at 25 years old was doing. So, yeah.
Jason?
I hated this movie.
Miles?
Okay.
Jason,
Oh,
you,
That's all I have to fucking say this entire episode.
you were about to say
I have
something.
like nothing to say.
No, you're going to go on a little rant in a bit. I'm looking forward to it. It's
Yeah,
going to be
me,
great.
me and Miles are going to destroy you with facts and logic.
No, I thought that this was a really good movie. Much better than his other movies, which I've seen. So...
You've only seen one, right? You've only
Yeah.
seen Marriage Story. I really quick before we get into the history lesson, I just wanted to say, because in 2023, for whatever reason, I did a little bit of a Noah Baumbach deep dive. I watched Kicking and Screaming, his follow-up movie, Mr. Jealousy, his follow-up movie to that, Highball, which I would like to talk about at some point because it's kind of an oddball out in his career. And I watched Squid and the Whale, which I think is like probably his most acclaimed movie, and Marriage Story, of course. But yeah, Ron, do you want to give us a little history lesson?
Yeah. All right. So today we are discussing Kicking and Screaming, 1995, Noah Baumbach's debut film. In this film, he's a clever reflection on the struggles of growing up and an exciting debut for a filmmaker who would go on to redefine indie cinema. Redefine's a little too hard, I think.
That's very strong.
Yeah, that's very strong.
Well, these are your words.
I know. But
Whoa, Ron.
I know, but
Are you sure you're not the one who likes it the most here?
Did you let Blake write this for you?
Yeah. This film marked the directorial and writing debut of Noah Baumbach, who was just 26 or 25 years old.
I thought he was 21. I was wrong.
No, he was 25. When he wrote, he's bringing a sharp wit and unique perspective to a story about a group of recent college grads struggling to navigate life after school. This film is full of that perfect blend of existential angst and deadpan humor that would become a hallmark of Baumbach's career. Like movies moving forward, like he wrote, like he partnered up with Wes Anderson for like Fantastic Mr. Fox and Aquatic Life of Steve Zissou.
He also wrote the Barbie movie, which is interesting.
Yeah,
He's married to, what's her name? Greta Gerwig.
Yes, yeah. And I think they make a good pairing. I think him and Wes Anderson make a very good pairing too. I think that's...
I would agree.
I would say, like, I think his writing, I think, is better flourished, I think, with other people, but we can get into that later. But it's not just a film of personal reflection, it's also the product of an incredible behind-the-scenes collaboration. Kicking and Screaming wouldn't have come to life without the help of Jason Blum of Blumhouse. Yeah.
The first Blumhouse movie.
Yeah.
Well, not really,
technically, but
kind of.
At the time, they were like former roommates. They were roommates.
They were probably having exact conversations that the fucking characters in this movie were having.
I mean, it's a very like film schooly kind of thing where it's
Yeah.
like you're young, you write what you know and what's around you, and it's literally like I'm a writer in college. Like, what do I do now? But oh yeah, so fuck, I lost my place. Oh, yes, producing a movie for his first time. Blum was also Baumbach's roommate. Blah blah blah. So after he financed the film, or he was able to get financing after writing Steve Martin, who was a family acquaintance, comedy legend, and wrote a letter praising the script. Blum attached the letter to the copies of the script, sent it around Hollywood, hoping the film would get noticed in what is a very crowded industry. And it took off. They got some funding, which is great. So join us as we talk about this cult classic. Let's go.
Okay. Do you want to start, Blake?
So what I think I really like about this movie is like the themes of just not wanting to grow up, refusing to move on. I think that's actually really the big one, is refusing to move on. And it's obviously paralleled with the story of the failure of Grover's relationship. Because the movie, literally the opening scene is him breaking up with his girlfriend because she's going to Prague and he doesn't want to go with her. And to me, that's kind of the crux of the movie, right? Is that she is jumping feet first into something new and kind of scary and kind of exciting, but he's not ready to do that with his life yet. He's not ready to face the challenge. He's not ready to go out on his own. So the rest of the movie is just him having flashbacks of that while kind of living in this miserable existence. And throughout the movie, some of the characters seem to break out of this cycle, and some of the characters, like Mr. Herkeby, seem to literally be regressing. No spoilers, so I won't. Is this a spoiler-free talk, or does it matter?
I mean, right now we can just like
keep it mostly spoiler-free. If you
Okay.
spoil something,
Well,
it's
Mr. Herkeby
fine.
goes backwards, and we'll talk about why that is in a bit. But Mr. Herkeby, meaning the guy from Malcolm in the Middle, that's also basically just playing Mr. Herkeby in this. It's my actual headcanon that was Mr. Herkeby, like in college.
I could see that, yeah.
Because that's his whole thing, right? Is that he's like a burnout. Like he was supposed to have like really high expectations, and then just kind of
ends up teaching.
I feel
middle
like
schoolers.
Herkeby probably did more in college than this guy did.
Yeah.
But-
Why?
Because like his whole thing was that he's like a full blown genius.
Yeah.
And I didn't quite get that. I mean, I know we're arguing about like bullshit, but I feel like if we saw Herkeby in college, he, I don't know, would be
just like
as-
way
just
more
as-
miserable.
just
yeah.
as miserable
The
and
intention
insufferable.
and getting like a PhD or something.
Yeah.
But the
instead of-
intention of the character was that he was supposed to be like very intelligent, but he was kind of just like not really, he didn't care about anything anymore. He had basically fallen into nihilism because he was intelligent, but also more so than being intelligent, he was extremely narcissistic.
I think it's
Yes.
funny that like his downfall, they're like, what happened? And they're like, he invested in a .com. And they're like, ooh. And it's like nowadays that wouldn't necessarily like, it's just funny.
Ron, was there any things you particularly liked about the movie?
Yeah, I think again, like it's a lot of the characters, they seem very I'll say they're interesting. I'll say to watch, which is
They're not
probably,
necessarily likable. But
no,
they're
no.
interesting.
I was gonna say like not like exactly fun, but they're like it's like I kind of do want to see where they're headed, But like I was saying, it is kind of rough because there's a certain point where I think even was it Parker Posey's character says like, you guys all sound the same, and it's kind of true. It's like they all do kind of sound like copies of each other. Because
I think that's
on the
purpose.
surface.
Yeah,
on the surface.
Yeah.
Because they're all trying to. So the way I see it, it's like the platonic image of something, right? They've all got the same idea of what they want to be, right?
Yeah.
They've got this same goal. They want to be this sport coat wearing, philosophizing,
Successful, capital S.
not necessarily successful, but they just want to be the guy who's sits and people listen while they
They want to
postulate
be
stuff.
like these artsy, cool people.
They want a podcast.
Yeah,
They
exactly.
would have a podcast. If
No,
this
they
movie was
would.
made
They
today.
definitely would.
So they've got that same image in their head of what they want to be, and you see them each trying to achieve that image in different ways.
And I think they're all very different, too.
Yeah, they are all very different.
Yeah.
But Blake and I were talking about this. A lot of the conversations that they had in this movie, they feel like the conversations that me and Blake and some other people used to have when we would go hang out at the local coffee shop that we would go to back in the day.
I see a lot of like 22-year-old me in it, and like that's not a good thing. Like they're insufferable, like fucking pretentious assholes. But yeah, I kind of do see a lot of our like old conversations at like at like at the local coffee shop or the local dive bar. Like I feel like in a lot of the scenes in this movie, I'm like, oh yeah, this is like us arguing or talking about shit that we think is so important when it's really not, you know? Because I would call it relatable. I think if you're an artsy person, you could probably relate to this movie from your like younger adult life.
Sure. I think it's like, I mean, if we're gonna talk about like inspirations, I think that like Noah Baumbach, like we were talking about Graduate pretty recently, and obviously there's a lot of parallels there. They just like graduated high school. What do they do now?
College.
College. And it's like I think where it kind of differentiates itself from The Graduate is that these guys, again, they don't really have anything going on, and it's like doing nothing is like it's a character defining trait, and they just, I don't know, it's like it's kind of nice seeing how each of them like splinter out into like the various different forms of like what that means when you don't know what to do. I don't know. It's from whether it's like, you know, working at the local shop or whatever, working in the college, or you know,
literally going back to
off
college.
Yeah, going back to
graduate
college.
school.
yeah.
Also, really quick on the note that you had talked about, one of my favorite lines in this movie is when Skippy and his girlfriend are breaking up, and she says, like, because he's like criticizing the fuck out of her, and she goes, okay, let's talk about you and your friends and how you're like all in love with each other and how you're all like competing with each other. Like, she kind of calls it out for what it is, right? That they're all like competing to be the smartest guy in the room, basically. I don't know. I like that line a lot. And that is also kind of the crux that makes Skippy be one of the ones that does seem to actually kind of get out of the cycle towards the end of the movie.
But are these guys even really friends? Like, do you really
They're
see
friends.
I see
they're
them as
friends.
being friends, but I also see them as being friends more out of convenience than out of like actually wanting to be friends, especially when you see like their friendships kind of falling apart a little bit towards the end and the backstabbing and shit that goes on.
Well, that's just what happens like as you age and you grow, right? Like you fall out of touch with people.
But they didn't do any growth in the movie. So it's
Yeah,
like, you
that's
know?
my biggest problem with the end of this fucking movie is it doesn't earn jack shit.
Oh, the ending's great though.
No, they all just paused for about like a semester or whatever it was. And then instantly it was like, okay, basically they had 6 months where they did nothing. And then everything was basically back to where it looked like they would be heading. Right.
Kinda,
You know,
yeah.
they didn't take this opportunity
Riveting.
to change their directions. I don't think that's necessarily a bad thing. I think that the interspatial time that we were shown of these people's lives while they're stagnant, I think it was a very good vignette of who they were at that point in time, and it allowed us to explore their characters without them changing over a longer period of time. But yeah.
It's boring.
One more theme too is, I think, codependency, right? Like these characters are all kind of like codependent on each other emotionally.
Especially Otis.
Otis is really quick. General question: who's your guys' favorite character from this movie? Because mine is probably Otis.
It's probably Otis.
Mine's
for me.
Chet.
Chet.
I really like Chet. Like he reminds me a lot of myself.
Otis. Oh my
not good,
God. She put mayonnaise on this. He's like worried about the refrigeration aspect of the mayonnaise on his sandwich.
That's the best scene in the movie.
Yeah.
I don't know. It's hard to say. I kind of want to say Max, just because he seems to be like,
He's the biggest piece of shit out of all
he
of
is.
them.
He's pathetic, and it's kind of like funny.
Max is Herkeby, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. And
but
I think
At the same time as he's pathetic, he really positions himself as the leader of their group, of their clique, you know?
Yeah.
And it's kind of weird because he's got all these negative qualities about him, and you know, he's very commanding about what he will and won't do and like what people should be doing.
I think
but he's also kind of he's not emotionally developed.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
why I think his ending is the most interesting to me. Where
Oh, he's actually regressing as a human being.
Well,
Yeah.
Okay, so he's regressing in terms of his relationship, yes, but he did decide to go teach at the university, right? And so at least there he's moving
Talking
forward
about
slightly.
going to prom.
Yeah,
at
like
end of
the
movie.
last
That's the thing.
No.
his last line is he's talking about how he's going to buy a tuxedo for prom. He's going
like he's dating a
backwards.
high school girl.
Yeah.
Yes.
and
No.
he's working at the college that he's
what I'm saying,
been at.
but okay, so with what he has going for him, right? He's isn't he like a philosophy major or something like that?
Yeah.
Right? Okay, what kind of job is he going to get with that outside of a university, right? He's just kind of succumbing to the fact that that's inevitable, that he was going to work at the university, right? When it comes to a relationship thing, that's creepy as hell. Right?
But we don't
And-
even
but yeah.
we don't see him really try. Like in the third act, he has two moments. One where he's talking about going to prom, and his big win of the movie is he gets a free mashed potato. Like he's going backwards. He is like, I think, the biggest loser out of all of them.
Well, that's what I'm saying. Like, if we're talking about the themes too, it's like the willingness to take risks,
Yeah.
and stuff, right? And ultimately, he doesn't really take any risks. Again, settling with like a high school girl,
Yeah.
staying there at the college. He's not even like pursuing like higher education even more,
Yeah.
to kind of like maybe be a professor or something. Like he's just kind of like, I'm not saying
No,
it's
he's going to be
necessarily-
a professor at the college. I thought that was the job that he was taking.
No, I don't believe so. I don't know.
Do you think he's just going to be like a janitor there?
No,
Like-
no.
Like,
But I was thinking. I think he works in the philosophy department or whatever that means exactly. I don't know.
that
Maybe
means
he's
that
doing.
he's teaching.
It could mean he's doing research or something.
Yeah, I figured he
Yeah.
could be doing. Yeah, there's a number of
What
things. you could
research?
do.
It's philosophy.
I don't know, writing papers and shit.
I don't know. Grading papers. Who knows? Like,
Be
Yeah.
like a TA.
But TAs
Yeah.
are
You could be
TAs
the
are
biggest fraud in America and become a librarian.
okay, but TAs are usually graduate students.
The
Though.
Dewey Decimal System.
I mean, it could be, but I don't know.
Yeah.
But I didn't get the vibe exactly that he was trying to be a professor. I guess, but I don't know. That might be wrong.
See, that's what I got out of it. I was like, okay, because from the beginning it felt like that was the path that he was basically heading down,
He definitely
right?
I
And they
think
all
I-
headed down the same path
Yeah.
that they kind of expected that they were heading down at the beginning of the film.
He wants everyone to
He doesn't,
hear
though.
him talk. He wants everybody to like he wants to be able to like basically philosophize.
Yeah,
stuff like
and
that, right?
what
Yeah,
better
he-
way to do that than to be
a
a
teacher,
professor?
yeah.
Yeah.
He definitely is probably the most interesting character. I mean,
Chet's
just
pretty
because
interesting,
he's a
too.
giant piece of shit. At least, like, something happens with him in the movie.
I like Chet a lot. Chet has my favorite moment. Like my favorite joke in the whole movie is, and Chet, in case y'all don't remember, is like the super student who's been there for like 10
Yeah.
years.
Eric Stoltz.
Eric Stoltz, yeah, he was in Pulp Fiction, and he's also in a lot of the early Noah Baumbach.
Apparently,
movies.
he was the like the star power for this movie, which I think is kind of funny. Now it's like, I mean, he's got somewhat recognizable name, but they were like, you need a star for this, and then so he went out and got Eric Stoltz, who he was kind of buddies with. Anyway, sorry.
my
He was in
favorite.
Pulp Fiction the year
Yeah,
before.
he was in Pulp Fiction. He's been.
Did
in
I
lots of
see
stuff.
a cameo from Jason Schwartzman in this movie?
I don't.
No.
I didn't.
I
catch
thought
that,
I
so.
did, but I might have been wrong.
Maybe
really
you're
quick.
thinking of Noah Baumbach's character.
No,
He's only in one scene, right? He's in the.
He's like sitting in front and
Yeah.
just talking. Yeah.
Anyways, really quick.
Yeah.
My favorite joke of the whole movie involves Chet. Chet's like, he's like the bartender at the local dive bar. He's like making the guy his drink or whatever, and he's like, they say that if Plato is a fine wine, then Aristotle is more of a martini. And then it cuts to the person he's serving, and the person just looks fucking miserable.
He's
It's
just
he
like-
doesn't give a shit about what Chet's saying.
No, he's just like kind of a bar bum, just sitting there. And he's just like completely phased out. Super funny.
Chet's that actor, Eric Stoltz, that's his name.
Yes.
He is very funny. He's one of the funnier characters in the movie.
Oh yeah, they had to write him from scratch when they were like, we need. They
'cause
they
they
invented
had
his
to invent
character
him.
together.
Okay.
Yeah, they're like, we need somebody.
He works perfectly because I think he's one of the more interesting characters of the movie too.
Yeah, and he does have one of my, I think the better monologues, I guess, at the end when he's basically like, look, I was staying here to like put off life, and then I eventually realized that this is my life. It's like life doesn't stop, no matter what. Like even if you're trying to postpone the inevitable, it's coming,
can't.
and yeah, whatever you're doing is
What you're going to be
basically
doing.
who you are. Yeah. So
This is like the manly artsy version of Ghost World. I think you're the only one who's seen that, Ron. Do you kind
Oh,
of agree
yeah.
with that?
yeah, I could see that.
It's got a similar vibe to that movie.
Definitely. 90s.
This is the more like masculine version of that movie.
So would you like to discuss the pacing and structure of this movie? Because I think it's an interesting choice that it's like they have like chapters kind of, but it's structured like a school.
Yeah, a school year.
Yeah, school year, even though they're all graduated. But they're always, on campus.
They're always
and
on
around.
campus or around campus.
And so their life is still like that. Like I know that when I graduated, like from high school to college, it was that adjustment of like having that same structure that was just like what my whole life had been since like, fucking kindergarten, to being like, oh, now it's going to completely change to what college is like, where it's essentially like more freeing, but there's still a structure to it. It's like after college when it's just like, now it's just whatever it is that you've basically figured out. It's like, oh shit. Like it's in a major adjustment. So I thought that was interesting.
So I will say, as somebody who, after I was done with college, remained for a while in the college town that I went to school at, right?
Were you Chet?
Yes. No,
Chet stayed in school. He'd be more like
That's
Grover.
true.
He'd be more of a Grover.
I am a little bit like Chet, though. I was in college for way longer than I should have been. But no, I was working at a restaurant, right? Going to the same bars that I went to in college, seeing a lot of the same people around. Right, I was right next to the campus, so it was a weird situation, where you kind of do still, when you're around that, you still feel kind of locked into that schedule. You know that the culture is different in the summer than it is in the fall, than it is in the late fall, than it is in the winter. It just changes, and you're still kind of locked into that. Yeah,
it's weird because then it's like you go to the adult world, and summer doesn't really necessarily mean anything other than it's hot.
Yeah.
Like, and the days are a little longer. And that's pretty much it. Like, there's no like, yeah, guys, summer's coming. You guys want to go? And like, I don't know.
Want to go to Prague?
Yeah. And especially in Southern California too. Sorry, side tangent, but like, cause the weather isn't that drastic, the difference, from like summer to spring to fall. So it kind of all blends a little bit, but anyway.
Well, like in the Midwest, they have a lot of like the local festivals in summer.
Yeah.
So like each town will have like its local festival during different weeks throughout the summer. So it's like there's always something to do on the weekends. Concerts to go to, things to do like that. Yeah.
Also, with like the pacing and structure, what did you guys think of? They also kind of pace the movie with the flashback sequences of.
Oh yeah.
We see the beginning and what would eventually become the end of Grover's relationship.
I really like her. I like his girlfriend as a character. I know that Jason doesn't.
Jason's I know you're being awful quiet,
but
if you don't like this
I have
movie.
fucking nothing to say, dude. Like all you guys are just gushing about it. No, and it's just like fuck. If I say something, everyone's gonna jump down my throat.
So state your case. If you hate this,
it fucking sucks. I don't know what you want from me. It's a boring movie about boring people who have boring problems, who really don't earn anything narratively. By the end, they just decide, oh, I'm gonna do this. Like fuck, what? It's a waste of fucking time.
Okay. Why are they okay, when you say boring problems, and we're going to put a pin in the other thing because I really do want to talk about the pacing with the flashbacks.
Yes, I got something to say about the flashbacks.
Okay,
too.
let's finish this with Jason because he mentioned something that bothers me. He said they have boring problems.
They have problems that are handled in a boring way.
Okay, they have
other movies handle these sort of themes.
Sort of.
Much better, right? Good Will Hunting. We talked about The Graduate. Those are movies that actually like have the character earn the ending that they get, and they like go through the problems and they go through all the emotions that get you to that point where okay, now I'm going to change. There's none of that in this movie. Absolutely none of it.
Yeah, because only like two of them really get out.
No, but they didn't even decide to change.
Yeah, that's fucking. Who gives a shit then?
Wait, no. So here's the thing. This is a movie about people who decided not to change. They stagnated for a while, and then they just continued on their path.
Incredible, dude.
No, but it's a very real. Yeah, I think it's a very
they
real
stagnated and then they
to
just
have.
continued on the same path. Like this is what I've been getting on since the beginning. Like the decision to change wasn't there because nobody made a dramatic life-altering life shift except for maybe Max, and that was a negative one, right? Everybody else kind of just maintained the course after taking a pause.
At the end, Otis gets out. And
No, but Otis was already planning to do that. He just put it off.
Wait, what does Otis end up doing? I don't
he ends up
just
going away to
go to
grad
graduate
he goes to
school.
grad
But
right?
still,
but
he
was
does.
planning to do that from the very beginning.
But he still does get out. Like,
okay, no,
Otis
but
gets
it's not
out
about
and-
getting out. It's not about getting out. It's about did
Get
they
out too?
no, okay. So they have this life path set before them, right?
Yes.
Right? And Otis's life path was that he does this, then he goes to graduate school, and then he moves on, right? And he escapes that for this one semester, we'll call it, or 6 months, right?
Yeah.
Where he's like,
I think it's a full
yeah.
year.
No, it ended like after winter.
Oh
I
yeah,
thought.
it ends at winter break.
Yeah.
Yeah,
you're right.
Okay.
You're right.
So, so Otis is like, yeah, I'm just staying here. I'm not going to do it. Right. But then he decides, oh, actually, I am going to do it. So he just continues on the path. The same thing happens for each of them. Like even you see, Grover attempting to get back onto
Which
his
is the
path
best scene of the movie. I love
at the end,
Grover
and he fails
scene.
at it,
thought it was
which
a little weak, to be honest.
which is interesting. But I agree with Jason that narratively they didn't change
Yeah, that's.
throughout the movie.
I think
Oh,
that,
that's the point. Fuck off. It's boring.
Yeah.
I do think that Otis gets out because his arc is that he builds the courage to go. Right, he's a very neurotic.
Where did we see him build that courage, though?
But I think it's more just about
No,
fucking,
but it's not about building the courage. Okay, no, a narrative change, right, of him getting out would him be him deciding, I don't want to go be an engineer. I don't want to go to graduate school. I found something different, an actual passion in my life. That would have been a change. He didn't find a passion in his life. He didn't find a way to be happy. He just decided it's time now to continue down this path that I've been led upon.
I still think that he's one of the people that has a more positive end because he's. And you said, when did we see that? I think we just see it as him observing the surroundings and being like, oh, fuck, like we're really going nowhere. Because Skippy, too, in a way, kind of walks out, right? Like he gets up and he leaves and we never see him again because of how shitty some of his friends treat him. I think there's like some character arcs in this.
I'll say, if we want to go to the next section, to kind of back up, I think what Jason's saying a bit, or it's like it's not. I think narratively, like writing wise, it's like it's probably its biggest strength is its dialogue in this
Yes.
movie, right? That's where the characters really shine. It's really cool. It's where the movie shines. But I wanted to get into like the visual and like the cinematic style of this movie, and I think that's definitely its weakest point.
Yes.
It's a very bland looking movie. I think it's edited very like awkwardly.
This
at
is
times.
one of the things. Okay,
Yes,
so I want to mention
the
this.
transition between scenes is very jarring at points.
Yeah.
Blake will say that's part of the point. I don't give a shit.
I like
wanna-
how part of it's shot. Like I think. Sorry, go ahead, Miles. I know
okay,
you're just
so
dying to speak.
No, because this is what I was going to say about the flashbacks earlier.
Okay.
I don't like the flashback sequences.
The start of the flashback
The
sequences
start
are
of the
like,
flashback sequences.
that's awful.
It's
That is
really
like fucking-
jankily edited.
Yeah.
I see what he was attempting to do, but he utterly failed at execution.
And the end of the flashback scenes, it feels
Yeah.
like there was no like little arc to that scene. It just kind of ends at points.
Yeah.
And then you're on to like
No, it's
just another scene with the fucking crew.
It is supposed to leave you feeling melancholic about it.
But I
where
don't though. I
it's where
just
you
feel like, oh
you've
fuck, it's over. Okay,
not-
what's next?
gotten anything out of it. But yeah.
It's definitely it's awkward, and that's where
Yeah.
I'm like I'm a little bit more forgiving because it is I think his like first
Yes.
start. But if we're just talking about it, trying to be objective, like just movie here, then yeah, I think it does fail on a lot of those points. Like a lot of the again, like yeah, the transitions to flashbacks, they suck. They
Yeah.
really do suck. Where I was like, it took me a second to register. I'm like, oh, there's a flashback. Oh, duh. Like and then I don't know. It's very off. There's a lot of just off moments.
Yeah,
And
I thought
think
there was something wrong with like what we were watching the first time it happened. I was just like, oh no.
But yeah, like again, like talking about the Graduate and what was the other movie you mentioned?
Goodwill Hunting.
Goodwill
Sucks.
Hunting.
Dude, you don't like Goodwill Hunting, but you like this movie? That's fucking
I
tragic.
don't. I'm just kidding. I don't dislike Goodwill Hunting. I just think it's a little overrated.
That
Better than this movie.
It's debatable, but like I think it's like again, Graduate. It's an amazingly shot movie, and it's like the subject matter is very similar, and it could have been very bland, I guess, the idea of it, but it's like they really pushed it as much as they could to make it look as good. Like every scene is shot as like intentionally as they could, In this film, it's like I felt very little intention with the way like the cameras were moving.
You could see him experimenting in a lot of scenes. Wait, the first flashback, I noticed it was kind of like a shaky cam thing going on. I'm like, why is this happening here? Which again is fine. It's his first movie. I don't want to bash Noah Baumbach for this movie. It's just not fucking. It's just not for me. What?
I was gonna say, I don't think it's like 10 out of 10 perfectly shot, but there are some shots I really like in the movie, and there are some like filmmaking things that I like. Like in the first scene, it starts with that one take of like Grover walking out from the party, going to his girlfriend, and the way she's just framed, it's like from a super wide angle, and she's framed between the two trees, and she's like standing there. I don't know. There's a lot of shots like that I think are very cool.
I think
I did appreciate. I appreciate the way that the first scene was shot. Right, the whole like party and stuff. I think that looked really nice, and then it kind of went downhill after that.
For the most part, I think them just both kind of standing up against like that gate, their conversation they're having, they're kind of like their witty banter, and there's a lot of shit where I'm just like, okay, I kind of see the bones of a lot of like ideas and like I see something going here where it's like if I just watched this movie for the first time, had no idea who it was, I'd be like, yeah, I'm interested to see where this guy goes. The potential is here.
Yeah, and you see him like obviously get better throughout his career. I've only seen this and Marriage Story, but Marriage Story is like fucking awesome. And yeah, you can tell he learned a lot throughout his career. Good for him.
Except for casting.
Okay.
Oh, God.
You just hate Adam Driver.
I do. I'll admit it.
And I also wanted to mention another movie that we watched recently that handles these sort of themes much better is The Kid Detective. Right? It's about a guy who is stagnated and is just going through the motions of his pathetic life. And then through the narrative, though, we see him grow as a human being, and it's great.
I don't want to be a broken record, but I really do think this movie
is the point.
It's aimless on purpose because they are aimless. They're just a bunch of fucking idiots.
That's not interesting to me. I'm sorry. And maybe this movie, Ron wrote down like, who is this movie for? Not me. Absolutely not me. It's boring to someone like me.
I'm sorry it's a little above you. It's okay.
I mean, I found the dialogue hilarious throughout the movie.
Yeah, and the movies, I don't know how you don't
I
think
agree
it's hilarious.
the dialogue is funny. My issue is like, and again, Blake will say, oh, it's the point. If everyone's quippy and witty, then kind of no one is, and it kind of loses its flair as the movie goes on. I get like, okay, I get it.
Okay, so
it did kind of run out of steam towards the end. I agree on that. It felt like it was really good first two acts, but then it kind of just went downhill a little bit with that when it came to the dialogue, I will say, just because it felt like more of the same. But
your cat came to comfort me.
Oh yeah. He could tell you're upset. Just viscerally.
I like the third act. Am I the only person who likes the third act?
No, I mean, I like the third act, but the dialogue had gotten a little bit stale at that point, I will say.
I do think it's really funny, though, overall. Like, it's a really funny movie.
Yeah, like, if we're going back to strengths and weaknesses, that's definitely a strength.
It's comedy.
Like, it's funny. It's a lot of it is witty. And there were a few moments where I'm like, oh, I want to remember that quote for later, which I can't recall at the moment. Like, some of my favorite lines, but there were a number where I was
everything
like,
Otis says is fucking hilarious.
Yes.
Yeah.
Well,
there's a lot of good shit that was like quippy and yeah.
And also when Chet's giving advice, I feel like even though he's like the guy who's the eternal student, it feels like he actually has things figured out and he's exactly where he wants to be in life.
That is.
And it's like at first you're like, oh yeah, this loser right here can't like even graduate school.
But
then
like
you're like
the girl like walking away, or
the
lady walking away.
Yeah,
she's like,
yeah.
And
he has a kid. Did I
Like
misunderstand that?
that?
Yeah, like he has a kid with a professor or something. Like, yeah.
Oh, and the lady's walking away. That's when he's like, this is a pretty good end of year graduation party. It's not as good as 5 years ago. 3 years ago, there was actually a horse, which is hard to compete with. Yeah. I didn't go 2 years ago. I think I just wasn't in the mood. It's like, this is like supposed to be one of those nights that's really good that you have once, right?
Yeah.
Your graduation party, but he's been to like 11 of them.
Yeah. It's kind of sad.
Yeah, that's the point. It's kind of sad.
But
this whole movie is kind
likes
of
it.
melancholy too, I think. Like, it is a sad movie.
So do we want to move into the different performances?
Yes. I think they're all kind of great, but like I said, the actor who plays Otis, I have to single him out as being just fucking hilarious. He plays that role so well. Part of the reason I wanted to watch Mr. Jealousy is because he's in Mr. Jealousy, and he's like one of the best parts of that movie as well.
Carlos Jacket.
Yes.
Jacott? Fuck, I don't know how to say that.
Wow.
Jacott.
Sorry if we messed up your name, Carlos.
Yeah.
I know you're listening.
He doesn't look like he'd be a Carlos.
No, he doesn't.
But no, I think him and then Chris Eichmann as Max.
It's great.
Fantastic.
Eric Stoltz.
Yeah. Like we were saying, he does seem to, Chris Eichmann's like playing a lot of that same character in Huckabee, which I'm assuming is
Huckabee.
why, Huckabee. That's a senator. No, but like I think they brought him in just for like probably to fill a very similar role, right? They're like, oh, he'd be perfect for this. And he plays it so well. Again, I just want to harp on him. He's my favorite character, probably my favorite. Well, maybe like he's up there as like my favorite performers in this.
Again, he's the most interesting to me. I don't know, because things kind of happen to him in this movie.
Yeah,
Nothing really happens to anyone else.
His like even I think his backward slide is it's movement.
It's fucking creepy, and I don't like it. But at least like I don't know, it's interesting.
like, what did you guys think of the side characters and supporting cast? Like the creepy European dude, or the
That was Noah Baumbach, right?
oh, was
Yeah.
that? Oh,
yeah.
I think
Yeah.
so.
I think
No,
his name's Danny.
That was really
Yeah.
holy
Yeah.
shit. That's hilarious. I didn't realize that. Yeah, no, he was funny. I think Cara Bueno is Kate.
Mm-hmm.
I think she was really good. She was fun. I was like just a little Harley Quinn kind of.
Is she the main girl? The Grover's?
Yeah, she's the teenager who's what's his face ends up with at the end. She was good. Yeah, Huckabee. Olivia D'Abo as Jane. I think she does like a very serviceable job. Nothing really that like really stood out. but
She's the
I
what?
don't think
She's
she-
Grover's girlfriend.
Yeah, Jane, the one who breaks.
She
away.
has another one of my favorite lines though in the movie, which I think is like almost the thesis statement. In the final flashback when they're at like the dive bar that Grover first talks shit about when he first goes there, but then that just kind of becomes part of his like daily routine. He says something like really over dramatic and like super melodramatic. He's like, I hope that after this moment wears off, we still feel the same way. And after we've sobered up and you've gone back to class and I've done this, and he goes on and on. And it's like super insufferable. He's like, but basically it's just like, I just hope that we have the same way. And she goes, it's not that dramatic, right? Like you'll see me again, like the next day. So I like that she kind of like calls him out on his, how he, because another thing all of these characters do is over romanticize like everything. And I like that the one in the final scene is her calling that out.
That's not the final flashback though.
Oh, second to last. My bad.
But it is
Ultimate.
very telling of like how we are at that age. Everything's so
Yeah.
dramatic.
Yeah. So, what did you guys think of Grover's dad?
Oh,
I
he's
know
great.
he was only featured a little bit, but yeah.
I really like Elliot Gould. I think he's a great actor.
Was he in Eyes Wide Shut, or am I thinking of someone else?
I'm not sure. I always remember him from Ocean's 11, and he's been
He's
a lot of shit.
Ross and Monica's dad on
He's
Friends.
in Ray Donovan, I think.
I think he's in
That's true.
American History X. Did you just say that?
Yes,
Yeah,
yes,
he's
he
in
is in
American
American
History
History X. Yeah, he's been in a lot of shit. I don't know. Honestly, I thought his character was a little weak, to be honest. Like I kind of
Yeah,
saw
he was
what
just
they're
kind of
going
there for a minute.
Yeah, I was like, all right, he's there. He's
I like
there
the
to offer a
line.
little perspective, I guess. But I
Well,
felt like he was very underused.
I think it's less to offer perspective and more to kind of show that Grover's kind of going down the same path of unhappiness as his father. And, just the relationship there, especially because it comes very shortly after he, has the flashback where he says, "Oh yeah, my parents would never get a divorce."
Yeah.
You know, like they hate each other, but they won't get divorced.
And they hint at it
yeah.
too when he's on the phone with them.
Yeah.
He's like doing the crosswords, and like his dad, he's like asking his dad, "Oh, who is this?" And it's, I don't know, it's someone famous. And then his dad says, like, "Oh, does he have a happy marriage?" So it's like the seeds of that are planted in the beginning. I really like Grover's line to him though when his dad's talking about like sex, and he's like, "Dad, I'm not ready to accept you as a human being yet." We didn't talk about the soundtrack. I really liked the soundtrack, of this movie.
Yeah. Okay,
It's a lot of
soundtrack was
licensed
cool.
music, and I think it works for a lot of it.
Yeah, I think I really like the opening sequence, just the sound that's kind of playing under like all their conversations. It's
Also the sequence where they're at like the nightclub and like the Heart of Glass is playing.
oh yeah,
And like that's the Otis has that great line where the girl's talking about how much she likes like nose rings or something. He's like, "Yeah, I'm gonna get one." Like, that's a great sequence. And Heart of Glass is playing. There's a lot of licensed music, and I think it works for this movie. This movie feels very like it's like it feels very like you were there in these scenes. You know, that's kind of the vibe. So it's just a lot of music you would hear at people's houses or at bars or at coffee shops. You know.
yeah, fair enough. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. I don't have much to say about the soundtrack.
I feel like we
yeah.
could-
Yeah, I really don't remember.
Yeah,
much
it
about
wasn't
to
like
be honest.
memorable to me, unfortunately. yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know. I genuinely can't name a song in this movie, but I was checked out for a lot of it. So
Glad to know you were really paying attention.
I mean, I really didn't fucking have to. Like, I got it. Right?
The funniest thing was when we were watching this movie, I watched it. Ron did not watch it with us, but me, Miles, and Jason did. I remember fucking 3 minutes in, you went, "Fuck."
All right, I feel like we could move into like final thoughts.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Jason, you start.
Hey, I mean, I hated it. I hated this movie.
No, you didn't. Come on,
I
tell us how
did.
you really feel.
I really just, again, it's just not for me, man. I like movies with a narrative, with, you know, character growth, and I don't like watching people sit around talk about nothing unless it's Seinfeld for whatever reason. But yeah, it's just genuinely not for me. I didn't find anyone particularly interesting, except for Max. We went over that. I didn't think any of them earned the ending that they got. I don't know. Like it felt like a waste of time to me. Nothing against Noah Baumbach. He's doing good stuff now. So
See,
Sure.
I'll just say like I enjoyed it for the most part. There's like some fun quippy lines. I could see myself like maybe rewatching it, like not anytime soon, but I'll say like it's an interesting I like, you know, debut. There's a lot of obviously the potential was like kind of there. I think Noah Baumbach, you know, he obviously developed a lot of his ideas and really found his voice as he's moved on, of course. But yeah, it was cool. But, you know, I don't know. It was nothing that really, I don't say it's going to really stick with me. I feel like a lot of other films have like tackled this premise and came out like with much better ideas. But, you know, it's a good debut. I'll say, you know, that's about it. Yeah.
Miles.
I don't think this was a good movie. I really enjoyed it, though. I will say that. I found it to be a very enjoyable movie, but I see where Jason's coming from to a certain extent, and also like kind of looking at it from a film perspective, it's not a good movie, but I enjoyed it.
I disagree. I really like this movie. I think it's very funny. I think it's very watchable and rewatchable. I don't know. I think it captures that feeling very well of being like a 22-year-old that's full of himself and kind of just overestimates their own grand importance in the world. And you agree with me with that, right, Miles?
Yeah. I think that what it portrays, I enjoyed watching it portray that. A lot of that does come down to similar life experiences. I have been at that point in my life, right? I have been around people like that. I've been in an environment that's conducive to creating kind of those relationships with people. But at the same time, it's, you know, that can't be the only thing that it has going for it is witty conversations based on his life. That doesn't make a good movie in itself.
I guess I want to ask you, Ron, do you relate to the characters at all in this movie?
Yeah. It's, I mean, I like, by the time, like, because I had a weird relationship with college where I was definitely one of those people who was in it much longer than I guess is what's conventional. But by the time I got out, it was more of a choice because I decided just to like work in the field and everything. So it was like I didn't quite have that moment where I'm just like, what do I do now? But I did relate, though. I think there's it's very relatable. The characters were kind of like that, especially at that age, at 22, where it's like you're still figuring a lot of shit out. But I don't know. It's like, again, I feel like other films have I feel like I've resonated much more in particular. But I do understand, though, like I think the friend group dynamic, if anything, it feels a little bit more familiar than anything else.
I see a lot of our friend group.
Yeah. And I think that's why I enjoyed it. It's because it's like, oh yeah, it was more like nostalgic a little bit, weirdly enough.
Yeah,
like,
it is weirdly nostalgic.
Yeah.
Can you be nostalgic? It was 4 months
But
ago.
I guess it's only
I'm
nostalgic
things
for
that
like
haven't happened yet.
Sorry, that's a great line from the movie. Yeah. But yeah, no, oddly enough, it's nostalgic. And that's probably just for some people. Other people, it's not going to be like that for.
Jason, you said you don't relate to this movie at all, right?
No. When I was 22, I mean, I guess I was in college at the time, but I was just like, I was working all the time. I was trying to pay my fucking bills. I didn't have time to sit around and fucking talk about bullshit.
Fair enough.
But we
dude.
kind of did, though. You knew me when I was 22, and we would sit. In the
I
back.
wasn't 22 then.
Yeah, that's true.
Okay, so now I think there you go. That's right.
There we go. I like
Yay.
it. That's my. Watch it. It's good.
I like
You're
it. It's
into-
enjoyable. It's not a good movie.
Yeah, if you're into a coming of age movie, if you want to see where a lot of like stars and like Noah Baumbach like got his start, like it's a good choice I think for that. But I wouldn't recommend it to everybody. It's a very.
It depends on the person. Like I think, I would. In fact, I even knew going into it, I was like, Jason, you're gonna hate this, Miles. You'll probably like it. I wasn't sure where you would land, Ron. So
I guess somewhere, someone.
I will say,
I don't feel strongly about it really in any way.
I will say, if you can't get into it in the first 20 minutes,
it's probably just
and you
not
turn
gonna
it
be for
off,
you.
then
Yeah.
there's nothing wrong with that. But it is worth trying out. It might be your thing.
You'll know pretty fast if it's your kind of movie or
Yeah.
not.
Yeah, I knew like after the first 2 lines of dialogue, I was going to hate this movie.
Aside from this hidden masterpiece, what else have you guys been watching this week?
So, well, as you all know, it was New Year's recently. Did we talk about the movie that we watched?
Galaxy Quest?
Did
I
we
think we
talk about
mentioned it
watching it?
last
Yeah.
week, but we
Okay.
didn't talk about it.
But yeah, we watched Galaxy Quest.
Another movie about
yeah.
stagnation.
It was the
that is
first
handled way better.
It was the first movie that we watched this year,
Mm-hmm.
and a good one to start off with. I think we started at like 12:30. So,
It was like
yeah.
2 a.m., dude.
Oh, was it 2 a.m. by that point? Oh, geez. That explains why the next morning I couldn't wake up.
Yeah, it was
Yeah.
awful.
Yeah.
But I fucking love Galaxy Quest.
It's
That
a
movie's
great
so much
Amazing
fun.
movie. Yeah.
So good. I started watching 2 different shows. I started watching The Penguin and Squid Game season 2.
Oh, how's Squid Game season 2?
Well, I watched the first episode of Squid Game, and I wasn't really pulled back into the story, to be honest. It wasn't a bad first episode, but it was like I don't know. I just
Isn't it the guy just going back?
Yeah.
kind of.
It's like Hunger Games catching fire.
And it's hosted by Mr. Beast this time or something.
What? No, right?
No,
is he
that's
in
real
it?
life.
That'd be so funny.
No.
I know.
Netflix,
In real life, it was a
Netflix did
scandal.
a sideshow
Yeah, I know.
that is hosted by Mr.
But it would have
Beast.
been
I was making
hilarious
a joke. Yeah.
because that's like the type of people they were.
But no, and then but I'm saying because I watched The Penguin too. I watched the first episode of that almost right afterwards.
It's good.
And I really wanted to watch the next episode, and I didn't really have that urge for Squid Game. Which, I don't know,
Apparently,
fuck it.
they're splitting Squid Game.
Oh, that's
and like they left it on like a
always do.
massive cliffhanger, and people are not happy with it.
I mean, from the first episode, I was like, okay, I see kind of it seems like they're pushing some of the ideas. I thought it was gonna just kind of fall back into like a
Squid
it's
Game
like,
2.
yeah, like, but I mean, they're kind of doing. I don't know.
Game.
But it felt kind of a little lukewarm. But Penguin, though, I was very interested right away. I was like, I liked Colin Farrell's performance as Penguin a lot, and I liked just seeing more of him. I think that the new characters they introduced were very cool. Yeah. So yeah,
I'm watching that with my sister, so we watch like an episode a week.
Nice.
So we've only watched 2 episodes, but it's fucking good.
Yeah, I like it.
Very good.
It looks good, and it's it's fun.
Yeah.
I watch. Oh,
You go
wanna
ahead.
go? Okay. I watched Hundreds of Beavers last night.
Oh, dude.
Fucking wild movie. That movie is insane. But it was a lot of fun. I think it may have been just a little too long, but I don't know. I just love the way that movie progresses. It feels almost like a video game, the way like the character is like leveling up and like getting more adept at fucking killing beavers. Like he's just it's super fun. And I didn't know this going in, but it's basically a silent film, which I thought was a cool choice. Really good visual storytelling.
I really need to watch this movie. You
wanna
have me
see it.
very
It's
intrigued
fucking
by
bonkers,
it. Yeah.
dude.
It's like exponential. Like it starts off like a little slow, and I kind of was like, where is this leading?
Well, the opening
you know?
scene is like fucking huge and like very Looney Tunes esque.
Yeah.
And then he starts at the bottom, and then he starts working his way up. And it feels like a video game progression. It's fun.
I want to see it.
All right, Blake, what are you doing?
Did I talk about this last week? This is like over a week ago now, but I watched Tangerine. Did I talk about that already?
I don't think you
God.
did.
No.
Ugh. Awful movie.
I know you
Awful
don't like that
movie.
movie.
Yeah, Blake made me watch this movie. He was like, "Oh, it's a Christmas movie."
It is a Christmas movie.
Just because it takes place on Christmas does not make it a Christmas movie.
Yes, it does. It's a Christmas movie.
Debatable.
I consider it a Christmas movie. That's Sean Baker's. That was
You
like
consider any movie that like mentions Christmas a Christmas movie.
but it takes place on Christmas Eve, and that's like a plot point to the movie. Does that not make it a Christmas movie?
Maybe I would have to watch it.
If Christmas is a plot point in your movie,
Yeah,
it's
I
a
think,
fucking Christmas movie.
I mean, you could go down the idea of like whether I think there's like for like it'd be like a real Christmas movie. They're like the idea of Christmas, I think, has to be like addressed rather than just like, oh shit, we got to go here. Why? Because it's Christmas. Like I don't know.
It was completely insignificant in the movie.
That's not true. The
No.
entire B plot is very dependent on the fact that it's Christmas. Like
Jason's dying right now.
you okay, Jason?
I'm sorry.
Wait, no.
Yes. The entire B plot.
Oh,
is
you mean
very,
her singing?
No, the
You
taxi
should have
cab,
recommended this movie so I
the
could
taxi cab driver.
watch Miles hate on a movie.
I
instead of me.
couldn't do well.
He
Maybe
coulda-
next December.
He
I'll
could have had
recommend it.
he could have had his wife's parents over anytime.
No, but it's like specifically like what sets the third act in motion is that it's Christmas and he's leaving for deceptive reasons. It's a fucking Christmas movie. It's fine. It's
Whatever.
the first line of the movie is "Merry Christmas, bitch." That's literally the first line of the movie. Or happy. I think it's "Happy Christmas, bitch." It's a fun
Is
movie.
it a British movie?
No, it's a fun movie. It was Sean Baker's.
It's not a fun movie.
It's very fun.
There's nothing fun about the movie.
Okay. It's Sean Baker's Christmas comedy about a sex worker who's on a mission to get revenge on her pimp on Christmas Day.
Okay.
And
Her pimp /
her
fiance.
pimp / fiance. That's a spoiler. It's her boyfriend
I'm
in
sorry.
the beginning. She's on that's the whole movie. She's in West Hollywood and she's angry at her pimp Chester, who's also her ex-boyfriend, and she's trying to find him throughout the chaos of Los Angeles. It was shot famously on 3 iPhones, which I think it's a little overblown because they obviously have a lot of like film equipment. Like they weren't just like, in the street
Holding
of
the
LA.
phone,
But it does kind of, I like the aesthetic of that movie. It has like a very specific kind of weird, chaotic, almost gives you anxiety. Like there's lots of shots of like her walking down and like the iPhone is zooming by her and like this intense music's playing. I think it's a very good movie. I like Tangerine. Y'all should watch it next Christmas.
You should not. It is an awful movie. I do not recommend.
All right. We don't have
Can
to
we
get into
vote
it.
Blake out of recommending movies from here on out?
You guys all like Steve Jobs.
Yes.
Speaking of recommending movies,
Ron, I believe it is your turn next week.
yeah,
What movie would you like to talk about, Ron?
I want to talk about Akira Kurosawa's High and Low.
Okay.
It's
Good choice.
I don't know why, but I'm just kind of in a Kurosawa kind of mood.
Yeah.
Why that movie specifically by him?
It's just I've only seen it once before, and I really liked it. There's just like so much going for it, but I don't know. I think we can talk about it more next week. But I just I don't know. It's one that I think you guys would enjoy, or it's just kind of I think seems like it'd be a really fun movie to discuss. I think so.
You guys are going to take away my cinephile card, but this is going to be my first Akira Kurosawa movie.
Oh shit!
Wait,
For real?
Did
Yeah.
you not
I
go
think it's
s-
mine as well, to be honest.
Oh, dude, that's crazy.
I've been meaning to watch Seven Samurai my whole life.
Okay.
But I really want to
Yeah,
see.
they didn't go
Oh.
with us to the
Yeah.
secret movie club thing that we
Yeah,
went
me and
to.
Miles went
Yeah.
to the $1 Million movie theater. We saw Seven Samurai in a theater, and that was like,
Where is this?
fuck. I mean, we can get into it more later, but it's like in
Yeah.
downtown LA. I feel like this would be a good conversation for next week. But it's it's just cool. Yeah, I'm excited then. I'm extra excited now. Yeah, cool. Okay, see you guys
Cool.
next week.
Thank you.
Yep.
Merry
Bye-bye.
Christmas.
Bye.
Have a good one.
Bye.
Watch Noah Baumbach's movies.